I would like to welcome Mr. Sumit Patil, Disaster Risk Management Professional, former Deputy Director, GSDMA, former Research Officer and Program Manager, SARC Disaster Management Center. So, Mr. Patil has been engaged in the field of disaster management since 2010. He has worked at diverse levels and organizations, ranging from the regional level at SDMC, GSDMA at the state level, and HIPAA at the district level. He also has experience of working with the CEE NGO post Sikkim earthquake. His area of interest is disaster risk management planning, institutional preparedness, and mock exercise and capacity building. Owing to this, he has interacted with key responsible officials and professionals at various levels. So, Mr. Patel, whenever you are ready,
Thank you very
you can
much,
start.
Rupa. I think
Right.
I'll request Tanmay to present. Yeah, thank you, Tanmay. I can see the slides and hope I'm audible.
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. Uh, Thank you so much, CRRP and NIDM, for giving this golden opportunity to discuss um, uh, the key feelings and experiences that we have went through. And I also thank Animesh for that wonderful presentation, which is very easy for me to build upon and take some examples from it. So uh, I've been working in disaster management from 2012, and initially it began with the district level, which is Rewari and Mahendragarh district in Haryana. And for any DRM professional, it is very important to understand what it takes to work um, at district level, where you're the only person who is basically talking about disaster management, and you have to explain what disaster management or disaster risk management is to all the officers and all the stakeholders for with which you are working and presenting, and you are doing the projects with. So it has to be a lot of communication that you have to do at various levels with various levels of officers, and then based on their understanding, the success of your implementation depends how much they understand, how much they're enthusiastic about it, and uh, many other aspects that animes have said, like organizational mandate and resources, etc. And I'm going to talk about all these things only in my presentation. So then we can just move on to next one. Okay, so when we talk about working at district level and making things happen there, or implement the knowledge of disaster management there, so you have to understand we have stages of officers present. So one is the head of the administration, which we call as collectors or deputy commissioners, or departmental heads, HODs and CEOs. Firstly, you have to deal, explain, enlighten them about what you are trying to say, or what new you are trying to say, because all these officers are very senior and they have a fair amount of understanding, and you have to take that take your subject and move it to the forefront and bring it to the priority, so that they take it seriously, give necessary instructions to the officers. So that's first thing. Then if we continue doing that, then we have to go to the supervisors level, and then again you have to make sure that they understand your subject. And these are basically technical officers and having a fair understanding of administrative challenges and financial challenges. And then when you able to get through, then you have to go to the coordinators and technical staff, and then to the field implementers. So if you consider a project like a school safety, or knowledge like a school safety, then your teachers and principal in that school become your field implementers, and their understanding of the subject dip, determines how much output you're going to come up with. And if you assume the scale, so that you can also see the number of officers. I've just taken a screenshot of officers from R&B, and it goes into thousands of officers of one department. And then you have to, there are many projects which might go in multi-departmental way. So you have to consider that amount of stakeholders, and the communication that you have to do is with all of them, and make sure that your message is loud and clear, and also fight with the understanding, their understanding. Make sure that you're able to convey your message to them, and they are now a part of it. In addition to that, they have their own priorities, they have their own targets, they have their own uh, work to do. And this is because disaster management is a new subject in many parts of India. So this might come up as a new task, and whenever there's a new task to any of the officer, it has, you have to really be very, very strategic to make sure that the person takes it and then adopts it and goes ahead with it. So it's very essential that you talk to all this chain, and then make sure that the research is very well understood throughout this chain. Tanmay, to next slide. Let's go to the next slide. So ideally, when we try to make sure that schools are safer, hospitals are safer, yeah, other institutions like offices or industries are safer, and there are things, uh, the mitigation measures are taken. All the research that is there in place basically is like a problem identification and solutions to that problem. So research that we see, they have this solution in place, but uh, based on the context in which district we are, in which state we are, we have to see that the the solution that is best suited in that context needs to be promoted. So the first step of contextualization comes where we convert that research into a guideline for, say, that state, or for that district, or for the nation. So there we, the research is agreed upon and brought into the contextual understanding of the the departments and institutional setup once it is converted into a guideline. So it's kind of a agreement that, of course, this topic has been agreed and we are ready to work on this in this way. So this would be the stakeholders. These stakeholders are having these mandates, and based on that mandates, these actions would be taken. Then the comes the point of building the capacities of all those stakeholders who are there, and for that we require training modules, training materials to be developed, and that too very target specific. Like if you say the main field implementer, so he'll require some different kind of material that will empower him. Say a decision maker, that will require, he'll require some other kind of material which will have more of coordination strategies. Implementer would require some more of a hands-on strategies or simple tips that help him to take the task. And continuously you have to convince them with IC material, motivate them with IC material, and give them best practices and share those practices with them so that they are motivated. Uh, One point that is very important in the practitioner's mind is that even if they are trying to do implement a DRR strategy or any knowledge that they have, there is some amount of uncertainties that um, am I doing the best, or is there a better way to do it? And that is that demotivates lots of people. What if this is not the best way to um, do it? So there are very simple example in some schools. Students were taught, in case of earthquake you have to duck, cover, hold. And few students, uh, during the earthquake, they were found that they were playing outside on the ground. They came inside and they cover and duck, and the way the messages can be distorted uh, can be really tricky. So you have to be converting this research into guidelines, training manuals, implementation manuals, IECs, so that the message is very loud, very clear, and specific to who will be doing it and who the stakeholder is. So that's how it can be translated into practice. Tanmay, we can go to next slide. Yeah, so this example is uh, uh, very important, and I've been working on school safety for say around 10 years. So after the 2001 earthquake, 2004 tsunami, and Kumbakonam fire, there were immense investments into the research of how to make schools and other infrastructure safer for earthquakes and cyclones and tsunamis, and then efficient stakeholders, very credible agencies like IITs and authorities got involved into it, and they worked really, really hard to come up with the project. So around the timeline of 2 3 years, substantive research was there that was available to actually make sure that the schools and hospitals and institutions are safer. Then the guidelines were issued by the national authority, and that guidelines helped to you know uh, make sure that whenever we are talking to the officials at district level, they are sure that this has been um, promoted by a national agencies, this has been said by national agency, and we are not doing something which is totally out of box, because they don't have a very clear idea about it. So we have to show the national level or state level guidelines for it. Then the programs like a school safety program which was launched, and it has amazing targets to be achieved. It had sectors like structural safety, non-structural aspects, planning, mock drills, and everything that was a package in it. So that helped in taking um, taking those actions to the field and explaining them with IEC material and specific do's. Ki, this is your target and this is how you have to achieve it. These are the 10 things that you have to do. So it makes really simple for someone who is engaged at multiple events. Because if you talk about a school and school teacher, and if he's going to implement the research that you are doing, uh, the school is the uh, implementing all the new research that is being done by all the departments. So all the department and at village level will be the school and school teachers who will be taking up the task of delivering on that. So they don't have that much time to go into details of it. So we require something that is very crisp, that communicates to them, make sure that they know it comprehensively and take it up. And then again, the sector specific guidelines came up to strengthen that research and to make sure that we are on right target. That those guidelines have further made that the missing institutional mechanism and gave the responsibility of all the DRR aspect related to the school to various stakeholders, and continuously implementing and monitoring. And now we are into review of it, upgradation of it, and understanding of it. So if you look at the research to implementation aspect, so we have to deal with the challenges of uh, first capacity building, convincing the staff, developing that missing institutional arrangements, because many of the department which say ki, that's not my task, because it's not there, because it's not in the mandate. So those mandates have to be written down and then communicated, and then convert them into actionable points, build the capacity of all the stakeholders, make them explain why we are doing it, and then we can implement that. So this is a wide scale which takes time, and if you want to save that time, I have one more example how the research is converted into action very quickly. So this is one way, and we'll move to another. Tanmay, can we go to the next one? Yeah. So one learning from this end-to-end early warning systems that we see is of course, we start from gaining the knowledge about the risk. So it's highly technical. Agencies like IMD, INCOIS, and scientists are working days in and days out to assess the indicators, study them, bring up the data that requires for issuing and warning, and then they continuously collect that risk information, risk knowledge. Then that risk knowledge is shared with the state and national level decision makers. They take necessary decisions out of it. That decision is communicated, and the risk knowledge, the warning, is being communicated in an implementation format, action oriented format, and then it is communicated to the masses at district level. And based on the capacities, like for example, do they have the capacities to respond, and do they have the shelters in place, they can take up that uh, actions, necessary actions. So at one end, there's highest amount of research going on, and on the other end, we are dealing with the people. We are convincing the people to take up necessary actions, and then evacuate or do uh, to come up to the shelters, and whatever necessary actions are required. So this is done in 72 to 74 hours, sometimes even lesser than that. So we are looking at the ways where risk is communicated going through decision makers, and if the institutional mechanism is in place, it's very easy to implement the risk knowledge or the research that we have. Tanmay, next. So if you want to expedite, or if you want to make sure that your research is going to get converted into actions, you have to communicate it with all the stakeholders, and that communication needs to be really, really strategic. Uh, we have to move beyond the documents that are used to communicate. So if your research is of 40-45 pages and it's written into a technical language, which of course a scientific research has to be written into technical language, there are chances that uh, it might not end up being read. So to make sure that it's been read and understood, and to motivate others, it has to be written into different way, it has to be communicated into a different way, and understanding of with whom we are actually trying to communicate, the same research has to be written in totally different ways, or you have to convert it into audio visuals, or what all you can imagine with, because now the times are changing. People are not uh, very uh, easily reading stuff. They want to go into audio visuals and study what's being there, and then understand things. So you have to make sure your content is available um, in audio visual format as well. Tanmay, next. So to summarize, if the research has to be converted into practice, that requires a strategic communication at all levels, and it has to be really strategic, very well thought of. The more it is strategic, the more it is calculated, the lesser time it might take to convert into actions. It should be written in a very simple format, so that it is understood at various levels. Modern modes of communication uh, are to be used. Decision makers at highest levels are to be convinced of it using means of communication. Then you have to build capacities of all the stakeholders who are going to implement it at that level, and continuous support of handholding, say communication through webinars or discussions, and making sure their doubts are cleared, and field implementers are having a space where they can discuss their own challenges and come up with solutions, and that solutions are also very useful for the research. to go ahead. So these are my experiences of 10 years when I think when we try to make sure that any of the uh, knowledge available has to be translated into action. We have to take care of all these aspects. And once we are able to take care of it, we see it being implemented at various levels in uh, in higher or lesser amount, depending on the awareness that we were able to do, depending on the situation. And slowly it has to be uh, pursued and taken up. So these are my points, and I'll be happy to take questions once it is there. Over to you, Rupa. Thank you so much.